Business owners are why we're here. We're here to hopefully look at what's it take for me to own a business. I'm not going to talk a lot about COVID today. I'm going to talk about being a great business owner through good times, through bad times, through tough times, through resiliency, whatever it takes. That's why you're here, because we got some work to do. Am I right? So those of you online, welcome as well. I'm going to have this as participation type event. We're coaches here. We coach, which means that we want to try to involve everybody. We want to try to have some level of accountability, and we also want to answer questions. This is interactive. So I will get some cues from the back. Any of you who are already here, I'll obviously take your questions. I'm going to walk you through the papers that are on your desk in a minute. For those of you online, we're going to be posting a link to the papers that are online, that we have on the desk here. I will go through them in a minute, but I'm going to give everybody who's online a chance to download them and have a look at them. They are important. There's a couple things on here that we really will go deep on. There's going to be a bit of math today because we're business owners. So we're not here to talk about necessarily fluffy things. We're here to talk about how we're going to grow our businesses, especially through this time. I put up this 5 stages of grief. I'm going to talk about that in a minute because I think we're embodied in it. We're not trapped by it. We're working through it. And I'll tell you a little bit about my story as a coach, and I'm going to ask you permission if I can be your coach today. Who here has had a coach in this room? Sports coach, whatever. Well, everybody, congratulations. That's excellent. So I'm going to tell you my story of coaching, and I'm going to explain to you what coaching will be for us in this room, and hopefully those of you online as well. So as we get started I'll tell you a little bit about me. This is our firm, ActionEdge Business Coaching. We are a proud franchise owner of ActionCOACH. ActionCOACH is in 84 countries. We have about 2,000 coaches around the world, and we impact businesses every day. We actually measure our success by how many employees our franchise partners hire. That's a metric we're really proud of, actually. I started with the biggest company in the world years ago when I was in my 20s. I used to fix MRI and CAT scan machines for Siemens. They gave me business training. They gave me technical training. I loved it. But about 13 or 14 years in, I said, hey, you know what? I think I want to be a business owner. I want to be self-employed. I think that's probably what was my first thing. I said, I want to be self-employed. And I didn't really understand this difference between being a business owner and being self-employed. And so I actually bought my own little bike shop. It was a boutique bike shop. It was about the size of a broom closet in Canmore. We grew that business into a world-renowned bicycle shop called Rebound Cycle that it is today. My wife, along the way, said, let's buy a restaurant. So we got Tapas Canmore going. We grew that into a top 100 restaurant in Canada. We just sold it actually during COVID to a very amazing chef, Chef Tracy. She's going to take it to another level. But the idea that I had when I was owning these businesses was, how do I impact other people? Because people kept asking me, how do you hire? How do you fire? How'd you buy inventory? How'd you grow? And so I started working with companies like Shimano and Brooks Running, Thule, Camelback, a lot of sporting goods industry because that's where my passion was, but also cities like City of Prince George, helping them understand how they bring people together to grow a business, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit today. My brother, he works into my story as a coach because my brother actually helped me he lent me the money to buy my bike shop. And my brother had a very, very successful business. He used to spray foundations for Avi Homes and J-Man, the biggest companies in Calgary building houses. I was really proud of him. He was an entrepreneur for sure. I got a call on a November day, just like today. It was about 7 o'clock at night. And it's my sister-in-law. And I don't know if you know, whenever your sister-in-law calls, you're like, okay, why is my sister-in-law calling me, not my brother? Well, she called me to tell me my brother had died at 37 years old of a heart attack. And that was not her biggest worry, to be honest, if you can believe it. Her biggest worry was, Kevin, I don't know how we're going to get these trucks on the road tomorrow. Because my brother didn't build a business that worked without him. everything that went on in my brother's business, he was required to do. And so the night of my brother's death, I was down in High River getting his truck ready to go and trying to find an employee that could go do that work. Because at 7 a.m. the next day, his competition was calling Jamin and Avi and saying, give us that business because this company's going under. And it almost did. It almost went under. We managed to keep it, but I realized at that time that I didn't want to be a consultant. I wanted to be a coach that would help people grow through that and be able to have a business that could survive whatever came at it, which is why I'm here today. We're 3 locations of our brand, ActionCOACH, Kelowna, Canmore, and Calgary. We're really proud of it. We're proud of the 6 coaches that we have here. And I want to really get into this today. I'm really passionate about being coaching, so about being a coach with you guys. So I want to ask you before I get started, can I be your coach today? Yeah. All right, thank you. Thank you. Online, hope you agree with me. I'm going to challenge you a little bit with some of these things as your coach, so hopefully that's okay. I want to ask permission because you gave me permission to be your coach. I want to talk about the 5 stages of grief because I think that they mimic what we've gone through with COVID. At first, we have some denial. I think maybe we're back in denial again. We maybe even come full circle. There's some anger. How could this happen to us? Where did this come from and why? And we started to bargain. We went through some depression, and God love those people that are going through it right now. I know there's a lot of us affected by depression right now. But then the 5th stage of grief is acceptance. But you see, there needs to be guidance and direction. And I think as coaches and as great business owners with our teams, I think we need to really go farther. We need to replace acceptance with purpose and vision. And a lot of today, I want to send you away with some purpose and some vision to go work on your businesses, okay? Now, I talked to you about the Profit Finder. I hope everybody's had a chance to download it. The Profit Finder we built to really mimic and follow along with this presentation. Basically, as I go through the presentation today, it's going to be about 90 minutes. You can, as I get to the various sections, you can ask yourself these questions, and if you cannot answer yes, just check the box. Okay? So the thing I'll say is, there's a lot of boxes that could be checked. Let's be honest. There's no indictment here if you have to check a box. There's no indictment if that page is covered in check boxes, check marks. When we get to the end, I'll kind of forecast right now, those of you in the room, I'm going to give you a feedback form, and I'll thank you in advance for the rating you give me and the lunch that we're going to have after. But as your coach, there's an area I really am passionate about you filling in. And that is, what are you going to do when you leave here to go back to your businesses and have impact on it? I'm not going to let anybody leave the room with an empty sheet here and they're going to hand it to me because as your coach, that's what I really want to see. I tell people, I don't really care about a 5-star review or a 1-star review, albeit I do. I find I judge this presentation that we do here by the amount of pages that people write them notes. And I find it's about a 5-pager. So if you don't have paper, let us know. One of my team will grab a notepad for you, but definitely there'll be some notes that hopefully you will take here because there's some important stuff we're going to talk about. Okay, everybody ready? Yeah. 6 most expensive words in business are, we've always done it that way. We've always done it that way. So as we move through this, we're going to look at some ways to challenge what we've done. This element of redesign I'm going to talk about a little bit today. Could be with our employees, could be with our team, could be with our cash flow. But I want us to all think about this because there's no sense going through doing what we're doing here and doing stuff the same way. So the 6 steps for a great business we've really been designed to address that. It's as coaches in ActionCOACH, how we break down fundamentally core areas of the business that we coach on. Now, I'm only going to go through about 4 of them today. And those 4 I'll break down in quite a bit of detail. The rest I'll leave you with, and I'll kind of describe what they are as we get going. But this is the tenet of everything we're going to talk about today because the definition of a small business for us is a commercial profitable enterprise. But if you learn anything about the story I told about my brother is it's got to work without you. okay? Now, I understand some of us are so passionate about the businesses we have. Conrad, what's your business?
Real estate investment.
Real estate investments. Okay, great. Passionate about it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, totally. It's your business.
Rent to own.
Okay, rent to own business. Obviously, levels of passion can be amazing, but the idea we have here is if we're going to build a company, that company hopefully is an asset that we can grow, sell, leverage, like I did my bike shop with the restaurant. We need to be able to do that, and we need to be able to be protected so that if anything, God forbid, should happen to us, that business can still go on. So sometimes people go, well, I love working in my business. Fantastic. Fantastic. This is not about that. This is about having the option to do what we want to do and be where we want to be and be true business owners, as I said, not just self-employed. So as we start this, I think the first thing we have to agree upon, hopefully, is the business is limited in its growth to one core thing. Anybody want to tell me what that might be? Any guesses? What's the biggest limit in our business, everybody?
Time.
Okay, time. Okay, yeah. Whose time? The owner's time. Okay, yeah. Okay, so the owner, what else? Cash flow. Okay, what limits cash flow? What limits cash flow? Growth, okay. I'm going to tell you right now, the business only grows to the level of the owner. I want to let you think about that for a second. Your business only grows to the level of? Yeah, you. If you all became better business owners, even a little bit today, is your business going to become better? I hope so. Hope so. That's why we're here. That's how we pay the rent in this place. To be honest, we pay the rent by growing business owners who grow their businesses and hire more people. That's what we do here. There's no curtain here with some magic formulas behind me. This is what we do. So growing you and growing all of you online, that is our job. That is how we support you, okay? So I told you a little bit about my story. I started off as a self-employed person. This ladder that's broken here, we call the entrepreneurial ladder. I want you to think about it for a second. Because it's broken, and my journey probably mimics a lot of you. We start off as an employee. We bought a business and became self-employed. And at this time, I remember clearly when I bought my bike shop, I was like, everyone was like, oh, Kevin, you're so entrepreneurial. You've got great entrepreneurial spirit. And I believe that. But the thing is, that business never ran without me. I had all the keys in my hand for everything in it. It couldn't run without me. Luckily, Siemens had given me some great leadership training. I was an okay manager. But I'm going to tell you, who gets paid last in this equation, everybody? The manager owner gets paid last. So the ladder was broken because we need to basically become an owner and a leader, and that's completely different than being a manager. Okay? That's a big step for a lot of people. A big step for a lot of people, and we'll get to this in systemization a little bit, but if we don't have the ability to hand off, then we don't have the ability to walk away. From there, we become an investor. Hopefully, we've got cash flow, the business is cash flowing. And when we're able to do it again, then we can call ourselves an entrepreneur. I did not truly call myself an entrepreneur until we bought that restaurant, because now we knew how to do it. So we hold the level of entrepreneurship here that you see on your screen, we hold it at a very high level. It's at the top of our ladder, and that's where we're pushing for. So here's the 6 steps. As I told you, we're going to go over mastery, niche, leverage, and team in quite a bit of detail today. Synergy, we're not. Results, we're not. Those are things that we definitely focus on, but they're more as our coaching journey gets going. Mastery, if this looks like a house, well, mastery is the ground floor, it's the foundation. I'm going to spend some time there. It's something we find that most people skip over. Niche is where we have cash flow, leverage is our systems, and team is, well, that's our team. How many people here have team working for them? Employees? Almost everybody. Okay, excellent. So, let's start with mastery because there's 4 areas I want to break down, and you'll see now on your profit finder, that's really where we can start with destination mastery, okay? So destination mastery is really, if you think about that element of the 5 stages of grief, having that vision, that is the thing we need to recheck on right now. It's the thing that people often skip over. You can imagine as coaches, when someone first starts here, what's the first thing they always tell us we got to work on? You want to guess? They walk in this door, they said, I want to coach. Guess the first thing they say they need? Customers, yeah. Leads. Leads. They need more leads. More leads, more customers. Kevin, why are we talking about vision? I need more leads. Give me leads. Believe me, it happens all the time. And some of the hardest things to do is say, okay, we're going to get you your leads, don't worry. But until we figure out vision, mission, and culture, we don't have anything, because these are the things that will burn your business down faster than you can imagine. You just think about some of the companies that have screwed up during Black Lives Matter issues. Anybody remember last week, I think it was, with Remembrance Day and Whole Foods? And they're anti-poppy, or our employees are not wearing a poppy. These are things they have not figured out that can massively bring a business down if we don't think about it. So vision is for your customers. It's got to be focused on your customers, and it's got to be a 100-year focus. It is the reason that people will follow you, while your employees will follow you. I want to make that sink in for a second. Vision is the reason your employees will join you to follow you to deliver your vision. The vision of ActionCOACH is simple. I love it. World abundance through business re-education. World meaning we're global. Abundance meaning we do things like today. Every one of my employees, every one of my coaches for 4 hours a week for free. That's how we live abundance. And it's business re-education. So make sure that vision is set. I always like to talk about Walt Disney's vision. Anybody know what it is? You've all heard it. Happiest place on earth. Customer focused, pretty simple. The mission, though, is for you as a business owner and your team to deliver the vision. So I guarantee you've never heard of Walt Disney's mission. I know a little bit about it. It's to be a global, profitable, multi-channel, multimedia, and it goes on from there to go into all the other things they're going to be to deliver the vision to becoming the happiest place on earth. So vision and mission are critical, and when we get to systems, I'll give you a few examples of what it looks like when it doesn't work. Because we have to build the foundation of vision and mission right now. Culture, that's different. Culture is the decisions we make to be who we are. And if there's one thing that we often do a systems recheck on when we start coaching, is culture. I don't know if I have a business card here, but our culture is so important to us that it's on the back of our business cards. If you grab one of our business cards before you leave, there's 14 of them. And I'll coach you right now, make sure that they're clear and make sure that you build them this way if you don't have them. Because culture, I always look at it this way. I live in Canmore, okay? When I drive home, the speed limit is about 110 kilometers an hour. Actually, it is, exactly. I can choose whether or not I'm going to break the speed limit, and I know the consequences, correct? Now, when Conrad merges on at Cochrane, there's no law that says I have to be a courteous driver. My point of culture is to be a courteous driver, so guess what? I pull over, but you see how now that's a choice I make? That's not a requirement. It's not a business rule I'm living by. So the point is points of culture are things we choose, and we know we're on the playing field, we're not out of bounds. So here's how I recommend you build them if you don't have them. Build a couple for you as the owner. In my world, that's commitment, integrity, and ownership. First 3 points of culture. Have some for your team. In our world, it's balance. We got 4 beers on tap here. We have fun. That's another point of culture we have. I don't expect Megan at the front to respond to any of my emails on the weekend. That's balance. If I do, I would expect her to come up and challenge me on my point of culture balance and go, hey, we have a point of culture balance here, and why am I getting so many emails and so many work requests on a Saturday? The only thing I can say to that is thank you for calling me into. See how now I've got a point of discussion around something? So have some for you, some for your team, some for your customers. Have a couple for your customers. Excellence and success and education are our core ones for our customers. And then have some for your community. Abundance and gratitude are the two I can tell you for our community. So ask yourself these questions as you build your point of culture. Why would anybody invest in my company? Make sure you have a point of culture that addresses that. Somebody would invest in my company because, boom, here's who we stand for. Ask yourself, why would anybody work for this company? Have some point of cultures around that. Ask yourself, why would somebody buy from this company? And also ask yourself, why would the community support us? If we can check off a point of culture for every one of those 4 boxes, we're doing pretty good, okay? Any questions on that from anybody? I think it's really important, and I want to make sure that we capture this as we move forward, because we're going to build on vision and mission later. Money mastery is the next. This is one area we find people often struggle with because, well, I don't know how many of you online can say this. How many of you in this room can say they are their own bookkeeper? Anybody can say that? A couple of you, okay. It's the one area I want to move you away from because you're not, financial mastery doesn't come from bookkeeping. We need somebody to do it properly. I can guarantee you, if you have your eyes on the books at the QuickBooks level, for instance, your eyes are not somewhere else where they need to be. QuickBooks has done, hopefully there's no QuickBooks people online today, but they've done a remarkable job of letting us believe QuickBooks can take care of all of us and it's easy, but it's not. I'll tell you right now, it's sad, but it's honest. If someone comes into this office and it's too late, they want to start coaching and it's too late, the number one common reason is they're in arrears with taxes because they missed something doing the books themselves. You need to have monthly reports, which is what we insist as coaches you have. Then we work with you monthly to then work with your accountant. Most people meet with their accountant when? Tax time, or year at the end of year end. But are your year end statements done at year end? They're normally done 3 to 4 months after year end is over. So if year end is December 31st, you're meeting with your accountant on when? April 1st. A third of your year is almost gone. How are you making decisions for this next year when 1/3 is already gone and all the mistakes you made that maybe will show up in your balance sheet or financial statement then? Well, we're already behind the 8 ball. So we got to get into this element of reporting our profit. We're going to get into profit more, but also getting into this element of, are we looking at the right things? Part of the things that a coach does for you is that we make sure you focus on the areas of your business that have leverage. Those elements of key performance indicators. And key performance indicators is probably an area where you need to maybe go back and look. Let me ask this. At the bottom of the financial statement is what? What's the bottom of every financial statement that's ever been done ever since man started doing them? Refer to the notes. The bottom of every financial statement is profit, yes? What does profit tell us on a day-to-day basis? Oh, I'm glad I'm asking this. What does profit tell us? Right. But can I look at my profit statement if I get my bookkeeper to print my profit line right now, my financial statement, can I go to my bank and say there's how much money's in it? Profit tells us nothing on a day-to-day basis. Profit is theoretical, cash flow is real. Profit is theoretical, cash flow is real. The great Keith Cunningham taught us that. So we need to have our eyes on more than our financial statement. In fact, the things that will be our KPIs, like for instance, average dollar sale or average invoice value, Could be number of, if you have a retail store, number of traffic coming in. Could be number of repeat visitors. These are key performance indicators that we need to make sure we understand. And we're going to go deep into those today because there's about 5 of them that I'm going to tell you you're probably not looking at that we need to make sure we do, okay? So, third area, mastery. Again, you can follow along here. Check off the boxes you're not doing, but time mastery is critical. Besides financial mastery, it's probably the next in line for what most business owners suffer from, what they're afflicted with. And I have a very interesting way I'm going to coach you right now, and those of you online, on how to do time mastery. Because can we master time? I don't think we can, right? Tell me your thoughts there.
Well, I think there's huge differences between people who manage time well and people who manage time poorly.
Yeah, I think the only thing I can manage is myself. My calendar, what I do with it. Time is going to go on whether I drop dead right now or whether I go on to be the most successful business coach in the world. Time's going to go on. The only thing I can master is myself. And, living in Canmore, I've learned some remarkable lessons from my neighbors and even my landlords. Landlords of our restaurant were Thomas Grandy and Sarah Renner, 2 Olympic athletes. What I learned from them, being my friends and my landlords, was something critical. I never thought about it until I started thinking about it from a business coaching perspective. Olympic athletes, what is their timeline for success in general? 4 years. What's our timeline for success as we look in business generally? Okay, 4 to 7 years, but typically 4 to 5 years, we could set some pretty good milestones, yeah? Guess what? The Olympic athlete today, if their discipline is cross-country skiing, the 25K, 4 years from now, they know the time they have to ski to win the gold medal and get the world record time. They know today. I'm going to ask you, do any of you have that level of clarity of your profitability in 4 years from now? What your KPI? You don't. But they do. And guess what they do? They take their calendar and they work backwards in 90-day blocks to today, and they build a program to get them to where they need to go. Why don't we do this as business owners? We have some obscure idea that we're going to get there on our own, but we don't know really where we're getting to. Again, that's a vision, that the goal setting and destination mastery. But at the end of the day, they have absolute clarity, and that's where their success comes from. Their day is not broken out as to pick up kids and put out fires. Their day is broken out 7 to 9 a.m. on Monday morning. Go do weights at the gym, and here's what we're doing. 9 to 11, we work on this. Tuesday mornings, their calendar is blocked out in segments, which is the first thing I would challenge you to look at your calendar. Ask yourself how much of your calendar is driven by things your business is telling you to do versus how much of it is built on things you need to do to be successful to get your gold medal world record time. So that means Monday morning, it may look like 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. is get financial statements and go through them and analyze 3 key things. 11 till 1 might be marketing review. Understand how many leads are coming in and break down the different demographic. See where I'm going with this? How I like to work it is every one of my core areas that I have to be responsible for, I color code. And I block them out. So the times I spend doing admin, which is red, because I hate it, admin work, well, if I look at my calendar next week and it's full of red, guess what? I'm not doing my job. I'm not delegating to Megan enough. I'm not sharing enough with my coaches. I can look right away and see how much is in there. Now, if I block my time out, green is money. Green is building my coaching business. Light green is coaching. Purple is my time I go to the gym. Yellow is placeholders. And kind of a magenta is education. I can look at my calendar and I can tell how well I'm balanced on all the things. As I get to the next week on Sunday night, I overwrite those blocks with actual activities. But if someone says to me at Kevin, at 10 to noon on Friday, I want you this. I say, I'm sorry, but my time's blocked out for this right here, for administration purposes. That's when I review my financials. If I'm going to replace that time with something else, I need to move that time just like the Olympic athlete would. Does that make sense? I think this is really important that we understand our calendars and look at them that way. Color code your activities, and you're going to have better success, okay? Fourth area is delivery mastery. Delivery mastery is the easiest thing to conceptualize up here. It's the easiest thing for me to coach on because having owned a restaurant, a top 100 restaurant for 13 years, our restaurant had a couple thousand 5-star reviews. A couple thousand. Now, that's not because I was a great coach or great business owner, my wife was. It's because our team knew, here's the remarkable thing about the restaurant industry, everybody, and the online, if you're in the restaurant industry, God love you. What happens 30 seconds after a bad restaurant experience? Someone goes online and leaves you a 1-star review. Every server that worked for me knew that if they did not deliver at a 5-star level, there was going to be a 1-star result. Why do we not look at this from our own perspective? If you knew tomorrow the phone call from 9 to 9:30 you were going to take, I was going to rank you out of a 5-star on Google, would you prepare for that call better? Yeah. But we never hold ourselves that same level of accountability. If you've been a server, you know it's one of the hardest jobs in the world. Because to deliver delivery master at a 5-star level takes an incredible amount of dedication. We need to have that same expectation on us, and we need to coach that down into our employees. So I want you to all think about what's maybe 1 or 2 activities that you're doing that are not 5-star rateable right now. That's delivery mastery. The other side of delivery mastery is making sure that we bring in products or services we can make money on. That's that supply chain aspect. But deal with 5-star suppliers. A 5-star supplier is they recognize when you pay your bill on time for 36 months in a row, you can ask for a 10% discount on your next order and they'll give it to you. That's a 5-star supplier. Make sense? Any questions? Excellent. Again, this is mastery. I spend a little bit more time here in Anish because they're at the bottom of our platform here. We need to make sure we got them straight and got them solid. So we're going to move to niche, which is marketing and money and where cash flow is, but also is where profit lives. If I were to ask anyone that came in here, maybe you all here, maybe you online. By the way, any questions coming in?
What types of businesses do you typically coach?
Oh, well, that's a great question, but there's really no business we don't coach because every business needs coaching. So me personally, I've coached one of the largest strawberry farms in Canada. I've coached one of the leading dermatologists in the world. We've coached upholstery companies. We coach one of the biggest blind companies in Calgary. We've coached gas stations. We coach every type of business you can imagine because it's this element of, again, getting that owner, growing the owner, okay? So that's a great question. Back to this though. If I were to ask all of you what are the key things that drive your company's growth, what are they? What are things do you think I normally hear? I'm going to flip the flip chart for a minute.
Strength of your employees.
Okay, employees. Okay, cool. Awesome. Yep, don't disagree with that. What else? Customer service. Okay, yep. What are things we might be able to measure though? And if we're talking about niche and numbers and financials, what are the actual key drivers of growth?
Past performance.
Past performance. Okay, yeah. History, yeah. Most people, the first thing they say, well, Kevin, it all starts with this. Customers. Pretty hard to disagree with that. I mean, if we can get a business without customers and without products, boy, that'd be nice. I don't know what it would be, but our job is to serve customers, so you're not wrong there. Then they go, well, okay, if you're asking me for 3, well, I better have revenue. Again, it's pretty hard to argue with that, right? Customers drive revenue. Revenue drives what the third thing? Bottom of our financial statement is profit. So those are things that generally when I start talking to a business owner, that's where their level of vision is. Those three things. There's a fatal flaw in that thinking though. And the flaw is, do we control the number of customers in our business that are going to come in tomorrow when we get back there? Can we snap our fingers and get a customer? No. We don't control how many customers we have. There's something else that controls that. If we don't control customers, then do we control this? No. And if we don't control this, we definitely don't control that. So there's things at play here that we don't have written on this piece of paper. I'm going to tell you right now, the first one is leads. Leads, what are leads? Potential customers, yeah. People who don't yet know necessarily how to do business with us, but they've maybe been introduced to us. Do we control the number of leads that come into our business? Yep, we do. Number of our marketing, our number of referrals, different channels we put our message in. Leads times conversion. Oops. Leads times conversion equals customers. What's conversion? How successful we are at getting a lead to become a customer. First thing we see here is there's an equal sign in front of customers. The thing that we thought that was most important is now the first product of two things that we said we control. If we have customers, well, we need to make sure that they buy at a level that we need them to, and we need to make sure that they come back and buy from us again. I always say a buyer buys from me once, a customer repeats. I can fool anybody into buying from me one time, believe me. So customers times average dollar sale times repeat business equals revenue. Well, revenue times margin, there's only one thing left. How many dollars I keep after I bring my revenue in, that equals my profit. So here's the thing. The three things we said were most important are products of how many things that we control? 5. Thank you. So it's these 5 things I want to break down now. Now, there's no secrets here. If you flip over your profit finder, those of you just scroll down to page 2 online, you're going to see we have something called the 5 ways. And we're going to do a bit of math right now. Because this is the math that unbelievably most people never do. Believe me, I've been in front of CEOs of multi-billion-dollar companies who never thought about their business this way, but we must. Let's throw some numbers in here. Let's keep this real. So, first thing is leads, correct? Let's just pick a yeah.
We have a question.
Yeah.
Online. It says, I have trouble getting a second purchase from our customers. They seem happy but don't come back regularly.
Okay.
How can we get customers to come back regularly?
Awesome. So what I'll tell you is we're going to break down. I'm not going to leave any of you hanging here. I'm not going to say, well, here's the things and let's go off and we'll think about them. We'll get into some strategies of how we might increase every one of these 5 things as I go. So great question. I'm glad they asked it. Let's just say, for the point of simple math, I might need some of you to pull a calculator out here, that we get, yeah. We're good? Okay. Let's just say for simple math, I'll grab some of you to grab your iPhone calculators. Let's say we have 4,000 leads come into our company. It's our company. We're going to grow it together. 4,000 leads are coming in the door a year. Not a staggering amount, but you think about web and phone, and maybe we place a newspaper ad, maybe emails come in, maybe some referrals. We have 4,000. And let's say, just again for simple math, I convert 1 out of every 4 of those leads. What's my conversion rate if I convert 1 out of 4? 25%, great one. Okay. 4,000 times a conversion rate of 25% gives me how many customers at the end of the year? 1,000? Thank you. Now, we're not done yet. let's say that I'm successful at selling them $100 of my product or service when I come in, and I can get them to come back 2 times during my year. Again, if you're doing the numbers on your profit finder, you can do these numbers to do them, or you can take this back. We'll give you another one. If anybody wants, we'll print out as many as they want. But 1,000 customers buy $100 twice a year. What's my revenue? Should be 200,000, correct? Okay. 200K. And let's say we keep $1 out of every 4, like our conversion. That means our margin's 25%. What's the profit of our little business here, everybody? 50K at the end of 1 year. Okay, not bad. That's actually what's going on in your businesses right now. We just never think about it that way, but that's how we actually generate money. Now let's say we want to grow this business of ours. We're not going to focus on the 3 equal signs. We're going to focus on the how many things that we control? 5. Everybody agree? 5. Okay. So, would it be grandiose to say let's look for a 50% increase in all of them? What should we shoot for? I say if you're going to shoot too high, I'll ask you, why did you get that this year? And most people say no. So let's keep it real. We're going to work together. We've got some coaches involved. Let's just say, can we say 10%? We worked on these 5 things by 10%. Would that make sense? Everybody agree upon that? Okay. So we'll go into some strategies later. 4,000 leads, we grow 10% in year 2. How many leads are we left at the end of year 2 where we have acquired? 10% of 4,000 is? 4,400, correct. You see me going. This is where I might need some calculator here. Again, we're not increasing by 10%. We're just adding on 10%. What's 10% of 25? 2.5. So that would leave us with a 27.5% conversion. One of the things I hope you notice is we're not blowing the lights out here. We're keeping it real. 4,400 times a conversion rate of 27.5. What's my new customer acquisition at the end of year 2, everybody? 1,210, okay. Okay, nice increase there. This is easy. If we can't find 10% in our average dollar sale, shame on us. So $110 is our new average dollar sale. And look at this. We don't even have to get a customer to come back 1 full time, because what's 10% of 2? 0.2. So we only have to get, on average, people to come back 2.2 times. Those of you online who asked that question, I want you to think about that for a second. We don't need to get them to come back 4 or 5 times if they're coming twice. On average, we're only looking for 10% in our equation here, as long as we work on the other 4. So 1,210 customers are now buying $110, 2.2 times a year. What's my new level of revenue in my little company, or our little company here? 292,820. Thanks for doing the math. And same thing, 27.5 is my new margin. What's my new profitability, everybody? 80,525 bucks. Wow. How much were we targeting for increasing in our little company, everybody? 10%. What happened here? Yeah, is there any bankers in here? You can be honest. If there's any bankers online, you guys know what this is. This is called a compounding formula, meaning that a 10% increase times a 10% increase gets me a 21% increase. 21% increase times a 10 times a 10 gets me, I don't know, 40. You guys do the math better than me. Probably 47. And another 10% increase is around, exactly what Connor said, about a 61% increase. We got a 61% increase in our profit because we worked on the 5 things that we actually control in very small increments. Now I'm going to tell you, as coaches, this is how we grow businesses. But I'm going to tell you, the other thing we do is, well, let me give you a stat that might make you nervous. Businesses that go under 75% of them go under after their all-time best year. I want you to think about that for a second. 75% of businesses that go under do it after their all-time best year. Why is that?
Based on revenue or some other factor?
I know why it is, because I see it play out. Record revenue. Let's increase from 10,000 to 20,000 square feet. Let's get those 3 trucks that we've been thinking about. New computers for everybody. And I know you wanted more staff, you want more staff, there you go. Guaranteed that's what happens. Keith Cunningham, if you have never read Keith, look him up. He's a remarkable Texan. We've worked with him in ActionCOACH a lot. One of the best financial minds in the world, but as a Texan, he brings it down to barbecue conversation level, which I love. He says this: businesses don't die of starvation, they die of indigestion. And I agree. As coaches, our job is to make sure that we manage this growth, because I tell you, if you do this math when you get home, 5 years down the road, this profit's about $1 million. So we got to make sure we manage growth, because growth eats cash, but we got to make sure we're focused on the right things. Okay? So let's keep this real. Let's break down some strategies.
We have a question from online.
Yeah, we do.
So the question is, my business is slow due to COVID.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to change my strategy, and I'm curious, where do I begin?
Okay, well, that's a great question, but again, we need to know what's your average dollar sale. Has it gone up? Has it gone down? We need to know how many leads you have. All the things we're going to talk about. So I'm going to get them to re-ask that, whomever that is, when we're done going through these five things. Because I think we've got maybe some interesting strategies. Where to start? That's interesting, because we know we're going to work on 5. Realistically, we don't get 10%. We get 21% increase in average dollar sale, and we get 7 in leads, as an example. It averages out in the end. We're playing the averages here, but we got to start somewhere. If you're already getting more leads than you can handle, then maybe we should focus on something else. Maybe how many are we actually converting? You know, all those people that come in and say, remember, Kevin, we need leads. Well, I throw them sell me this pen. Because if I get you the leads, can you actually sell me what you're going to do, what you're going to sell, or your product or service? A lot of times they can't. So we'll go into that, because I think we need to keep it interesting and keep it on track with regards to what do we need to focus on. So number of leads, let's start there. It's the top of our list. How are we going to increase number of leads? What would you suggest? Let's work on this. Marketing initiative. What's that?
Advertising.
Okay, to me, take out some advertising, maybe some focused advertising based on our demographic. Can't disagree. Referrals. Yeah, I think that's a good place to start. This is from BNI. Any of you who've ever been in BNI, 98% of businesses need referrals to survive. That doesn't say to grow, that is to survive. That's a real statistic. We need referrals to survive. Now, because guess what? If I get a referral, does my conversion rate go up in general, or does it go down? Goes up, because there's an element of know, like, trust. If I get a referral, will my average dollar sale generally go up or go down? Hopefully because they know, like, trust me, I can show them, they'll better understand and let me show them my best product. So referrals are critical, but guess what? Only 3% of people have a written down referral strategy. So here's where I always go with this conversation, because it's very interesting in my mind. How many people here are salespeople? How many people here are salespeople? Yeah, hopefully we have everybody in this room raising their hand. If you don't call yourself a salesperson, then you don't believe in your product or service. That's my first thing I'll tell you. But I'll tell you something. I've spoken in front of salespeople, hundreds of them. And I've asked that same question, and I may get 5 hands in the air. People don't like to be salespeople. We have this negative connotation. Agreed? Yeah, we do. We have a negative connotation around sales. So when Pearl? Thanks, Pearl. When Pearl asked her neighbor to refer her, What's Pearl actually asking her neighbor to become? A salesperson for her own business. And you were actually reluctant to put your hand up to say you're a sales. So we're actually asking people to become salespeople. We ourselves don't want to be salespeople. So we got to come at this from another angle. And by the way, not everybody will be a great referrer for us. One of the things we coach on is the DISC profile, meaning that there's different elements of personality types involved. Some people, the cognitives, maybe the detail-oriented people, the people who go, hey, how was your experience with me today? And they go, fine. Anything we could have done better? No. That's not going to be a great person to refer my business. Would you agree? Don't go asking them. But if I go to someone, Kevin at the back, I go, Kevin, how was your experience today? He goes, I got to tell you, I was not prepared for that level of service. I really appreciate it. I've looked around for this. Boy, I just can't say enough. Guess what? That's a person that I'm going to ask for a referral from. There's lots of those people out there. We just have to get them right. But there's an interesting way we can approach this. Again, I don't want Kevin to be a salesperson for my business. There's two core elements that human beings love to do. They love to help other people if they're good people, and they love to share things that are intrinsically high value or they had a great experience with. So if I can take those two words, help and share, and I can put them into a little bit of a script, it's probably a high probability with the right personality type that I'm going to get a referral. How that sounds is, Kevin, thank you so much. And by the way, if you notice, I actually have to take the time to ask somebody. Never, ever ask for a referral from a customer that you have not asked, how was it? It's like, if the glove don't fit, don't acquit. Don't put a glove on unless you know it's going to fit. To use an OJ analogy. I don't know where that came from, but but it's true. Never ask a customer for a referral unless you know how they feel about you. It's respect, for one thing. But how that sounds in the real script is, Kevin, thank you so much. One of the ways we grow our business here is through great people like you and getting them to help others come so we can share what we do. Would you be willing to share your experience so we could help someone you know? I will guarantee you with that script and that form, you will get almost 100% yes. Now we need to make it easy. Figure out, and if you don't know how, we'll tell you how, but figure out how to send them the link so when they click on it, it goes right to your Google review page, not to your general Google landing page or Google My Business page. It goes right to your page where all they need to do is click 5 and click great service, or to Yelp, whatever you use. People want to leave good reviews. When I worked in the consulting business, we did a lot of research on reviews in the United States. There's now about 61 million reviews on Yelp. And the majority of them, I think 67% are 4 or 5 stars. People want to leave good reviews. But the review language, when we broke down the algorithm and looked at what language people were using in those 4 or 5 star reviews, it was the same. Help, helpful, friendly, nice, not great selection, not lowest price. People leave great reviews, and generally it sounds like James was incredible. It always starts with a person. So bring it back, make sure that you focus, make sure you ask them, make sure you have a written down referral strategy, which is how you're going to coach your team and yourself to go get numbers. And set a target right now for how many Google reviews you're going to have by Christmas. Set a target right now, all of you in line, how many Google reviews you're going to have for your business by Christmas. It better be increased, because if we do this right, we're going to get some. Moving along. Conversion rate. What's the number one limit to conversion rate? What prevents us from converting, everybody? Messaging? What do you mean?
Inspiring people to buy.
Okay, yeah. I think that's maybe more in your marketing. I think part of the reason we can't convert is we don't have any sales training. We don't know how to sell. Again, we all said none of us wanted to be salespeople, so why would we train ourselves to be something we don't want to be? 80% of people who call themselves salespeople still have had no training. That's how to handle objections. What is an objection? Sometimes we take an objection that's not, price is not an objection. Price is an indicator they understand the value, as an example. But a lot of times, most of the time I'm going to submit to you, the reason we have a hard time influencing this is because we don't know how to do it. Let me everybody know this is the Container Store. I don't know if you've seen them, if you've been in the United States. There's a real store. They sell plastic boxes. That's it. Okay? Here's something amazing about the Container Store. If you work there as a full-time staff member, you must have 300 hours of paid training in your first year to sell containers. You have to have 200 hours as a part-time employee, and you cannot even get on the sales floor until you've had 40 hours of training. I'm going to tell you right now, I've never seen a company that's dedicated to train their people like these guys. They've got amazing customer service as a result, and their team knows all about how to sell. So I really challenge you all to think about the Container Store and say, wow, how much, because a lot of you are selling really complex products and services. And we're throwing our team out there trying to sell them, or we're throwing ourselves out there and we're not successful. That's one of the reasons. Another conversion tool. Clean up your ads. We see so many ads from people that we start coaching that look like this. This is an actual customer that we have coached, an ActionCOACH. Custom internet web designs, we bring your customers to. You see this in the back of Coffee News. You see it in the back of your newspaper. You see it everywhere. Maybe they're a little bit better now on Facebook because we can use better digital imaging. But here's what we do. We take this ad and we say, look, real customer, we made a new ad with a USP. What's a USP? It's a unique selling proposition. I'll get into that for a second. And a guarantee. Now, Easy Solution Corp, he realized that everybody in the world needs a website if you have a business. There's a million companies out there who will build you a website. I'm not going to try to tell you my coding's any better or I have better customer service. What I'm going to do, my unique selling proposition is, I'm going to give you 5 questions that you should ask anyone who's about to build a website for you. And they better be able to answer yes to most of them. Number 1, will you keep all my money, or will you give me all my money back if I don't like my design? The answer better be yes to that. Number 2, you can read it. Will you guarantee to keep my website at the top of the search engines? So again, we designed 5 questions, the last one being, how long have you been in business? If you haven't been in business more than an afternoon, because I'll tell you, there's a lot of kids sitting in weeds right now, stealing free Wi-Fi, building websites for companies. And they won't be here tomorrow because they're on to doing something else and people's websites get left hanging. Make sure you find somebody who's been doing it for a while. Funny story, I took this exact strategy with a mover I was coaching. We just copied the whole thing. He was trying to sell moving on Kijiji. And right now, if you go on Kijiji, there's like 10,000 people trying to sell moving trucks. We have a guy with a truck, 4 guys with a truck. It was crazy. And he actually was paying someone in China to keep bumping his Kijiji ad to the top, reposting it. So we said, forget that. Let's make our unique selling proposition something similar. So let's figure out, if you think you're already going to move yourself, you don't need a mover, what are you on Kijiji looking for? I think I'm going to move myself, don't need a mover, what am I looking for on Kijiji? Dolly, boxes, help. So we started thinking, what if we targeted those people? So we did an ad that said, before you move yourself, ask yourself these 5 questions. Number 1, will your brother-in-law show up on the coldest day of the year to help you even though he promised to? Number 2, will you get 50 free boxes, which they gave? Number 3, will your mother-in-law fix the scratch on your hardwood floor after she scratches it moving up a box. See my point here? We gave them the reasons not to do it themselves, and they came with us. In Gary's case here, or Tom's case, I mean, it was $14,400 is what this ad generated in a month and a half. Just by asking different questions and generating this idea of our unique selling proposition is you can't make a mistake if you ask these questions. Once people read that, they're like, well, why wouldn't I just call this guy? Clearly he can ask. He's the one telling me these are the questions to ask. Why wouldn't I ask it? Okay. So conversion is important, both from a how do we get it to how are we, this is kind of what you said, Alan, is what's our message. Here's another great USP as a example, Tom Shoes. Their USP is buy a pair of shoes, a child somewhere in the world gets one for free. People pay more money for their shoes because of that. Girl Guides is the same. We can get those cookies anywhere. But we pay more for them on our doorstep because we know the money's going to help a young lady in our neighborhood. Unique selling proposition helps our team convert, helps us sell. Okay? The last thing I'll say is change up your content. One of the things I notice is websites that have been around far too long. Left one is, or is our control, it converted amazing. Take a nice looking lady, put your product with her, website will convert like crazy, then it stops. We changed it to a nerdy pair of glasses sitting in front of a box and the conversion went up 72%. Why is that? I don't care. I honestly don't care why it went up. It's gonna convert for a while, then it's gonna stop as well. Change up your content. Google will reward you. As well, Google will reward you in your SEO with 5-star reviews more than anything else. Changing your content by adding a blog or changing your pictures or changing something and getting 5-star reviews will bump you organically to the top of the list almost on its own. I'll tell you something right now, speaking of the reviews. I should have mentioned this. This firm's a really good example of that. We don't spend a lot of money on Google AdWords, but we do. We spend some because we know we need to increase this. But generally when someone calls and Megan answers the phone and they say, hey, I'm looking for a coach, I'm ready. We'll say, thank you so much. Let me ask you, what part of our website really tweaked your interest to call us today? You know what they tell us? Almost 99% of the time they go, never even went to your website. Googled business coaching in Kelowna or business coaching in Calgary. You guys came up. They have almost 60 reviews. I read the first 3, I picked up the phone. Hear that almost 100% of the time. Get your reviews, get them up there, it'll bump you up. Keep changing your website, okay? We're doing good for time. We'll have you out of here in about 20 minutes or have lunch for those of you online as well. Repeat visits, well, I don't know. Somebody asked me this on the chat. How do we do this? I have a very simple method. Every business I've ever had starts off with a chief technology officer. No. It's a chief thank you officer. And I'll tell you right now, this may sound simplistic. I'm not being trite. The number one way to get someone to come back is pick up the phone and thank them for coming in the first place. And do not try to sell them there. Just pick up the phone and say, Pearl, thank you so much for coming in today. I really appreciate your business. If you get Pearl's voicemail, leave her a message. It'll stick with them. But generally what happens organically after that conversation is Pearl goes, hey, no problem. By the way, I was wondering, I bought product X. Do you guys also have product Y? And the answer is generally, yeah, we do. Let me get Megan to give you a call. She'll break down 3 different options for you. That'll happen, but it's not expected. But I'll tell you, a thank you will bring people back to your business easier and faster than any other thing you can do, and generally, it doesn't cost you much at all. Every business, you all know them, has somebody who loves talking on the phone. I always say, if you can get my wife on the phone, I'll give you $500 because she never answers it. And she doesn't like talking on it. She would never be a chief technology or chief thank you officer in my business. But I know people who are. So make sure you put that in place, okay?
That's a good one. I'm going to implement that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, for sure. You'll be blown away. We'll follow up. I want to know how many people just say, wow, thank you. I've had people call me back to thank me for my thank you voicemail. Swear to God. You know who ruined this for everybody was the car dealerships. Because they said, okay, was everything great? Because if it wasn't, we need to know, because thank you for in advance if you give us a good review, because head office or GM Canada is going to call, and if we don't get a 5-star review, we're going to be in trouble. So they all started calling to thank, just to make sure you're going to leave a 5-star review should GM headquarters call. They ruined it for everybody. Don't have any expectations, just do it, okay? Moving along. Average dollar sale, this is my passion. This is the one we can increase the most because everybody's got something that they can increase it with. Let me ask you this. Number one question, designed in the history of the world to increase average dollar sale. What is it? I've heard it a million times. Would you like fries with that? Only 3 people out of 10 are needed by McDonald's. Most people order fries. Most people do. McDonald's only needs 3 people out of 10 who don't order it to make an extra about $21 million a year in Canada alone, I think. So this is the thing we need to ask ourselves. What is our would you like fries with that product? It's really good. This is a real picture from Calgary. This is Greg's. Greg's is a industrial supply, tools, parts. I was in there. I think his name's Al. He has a hydraulic hose around his neck on a chain with a sign saying, "Ask me why I'm wearing this." This was clearly designed to increase average dollar sales. I said, okay, I give up. Why? Glad you asked. We just got a new supplier of hydraulic hoses. They have a bend ratio of blah, 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 and a clamping tension rate of blah, 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 blah. I had no idea what he's talking about. But I said, are you selling more hydraulic hoses? He said, we've never sold as many. Because a lot of their customers did. All they did was get a product, figure out how to add it on at the end of the thing. And by the way, this isn't putting gum at the cash register. This is making sure our customers understand what else comes with the product they're naturally buying. I'll give you a good example of my bike shop. When I first started that bike shop, on average, we sold about 1 to 1.5 items per transaction with a bike. Now, you talk about point of culture balance. Point of culture balance has always been big in my world. My employees in Canmore, they worked and lived in Canmore because they wanted to ride their bikes after work. They didn't want to work all day long. So I closed my store every day at 6 o'clock, even though we'd have a lineup of people who wanted to buy more. So guess what I did? I put Canada's first bike-specific vending machine outside, where you could buy locks and tubes and pedals, all the things you'd need to buy after hours that we didn't need to be in the store for. But here's the funny thing that I found out. That vending machine had some pretty good analytics, and it told me the average time number of products a person bought with their sale. Every time they put their credit card in it, it was 2.1. And my average dollar, or my average items per transaction in my store with my team, which I was paying, was like 1.6. Think about that. The vending machine had a higher items per transaction without any engagement at all, just because they had the products sitting there for people to buy. So I just told my staff, I'm going to replace you all with the vending machines if you don't bump it up. But once we targeted, we said, look at how many things could you naturally sell with a bike? And we got to about 16. When we targeted 16 items, guess how many we sold? Roughly between 10 and 13. And that was not through a would you like conversation. That was questioning my customer as we went through, and once we were done with the sale, or by the way, you sell pedals with a bike while you're selling the bike. But once we were done selling the bike, then it's like, great, Conrad, follow me. I got 5 more things that I need to show you based upon what you've already told me. Then we build a product story. So we need to take responsibility as business owners. This is your job to figure this out. What is your would you like fries with that? Ask your team, because a lot of times your team already knows. Okay? A lot of times your team already knows. Last one is margin. This is the easiest one. I'm going to spend the least amount of time on this. Look at, raise your prices, you guys. There's always somebody who's going to have a $6 haircut, and there's going to be somebody who fixes $6 haircuts. So our job is to make sure we can sell at a product or level that we can make money on. I'll go right back to my bike shop. This is a really interesting story that I always tell. My 15-year-old employee said this exact thing to me. He goes, Kevin, whenever I sell a tube to somebody, which was $3.99, okay? He goes, whenever I sell a tube to someone and they give me a 10, they're pleasantly surprised when I give them change. That was his words, pleasantly surprised. So guess what we did the next day? Every tube went up to $7.99. We had bulk discounts. Every tube went up $4. Nobody complained at all. We just weren't charging enough. Well, guess how many tubes we sold in a year? Yeah, same amount. And that $4. Remember, we only need, how many percent were we looking for here? How many did I get? Yeah, over 100, 400%. Well, my little bike shop probably sold 8,000 tubes in a year with an extra $4 of margin. Guess what? There's an extra $32,000 of margin right there. Right there. Everybody says that's the cost of doing business. Excuse my language, I say bullshit. It's not. The richest business person in the world, I think, is still Warren Buffett. He's only claimed 300 grand in expenses for business expenses in 45 years. It's the reason I'm banned from going to Staples. Megan and Emma will not let me go there because I can't get out of there without spending $500. I can't believe all the things I love to buy at Staples. I don't go. But limit your spending. As coaches, the first thing we do is we say 10% out of your expenses right now because that's how much we're looking for. Okay? Any questions on that? This has been a lot. We went deep, and anybody who posed a question where to start with this, I'm going to say you got to start where you think you have the most leverage. Hopefully we got your mind working right now as to some ideas as to where you might want to start, but we got 2 more areas to go. We got about 10 minutes since we're right on track. So leverage is the next step up. And you notice how leverage, if we're working our way from bottom to top, guess why leverage comes before team? Systems come before team. You don't hire people without systems because it just drives us into chaos mode. Systems, by the way, aren't just computers and CRMs. They're processes. Make sure we have processes mapped out. Make sure that we understand who's responsible for what. We have to have systems in place before we put team into place. And the first thing I'll say is make sure that we have a 5-year organizational chart. Here's how we actually, well, first here's the rule. If you do a task without writing it down, you're destined to do it forever. Okay? The last thing I'll ever do in my company here, if someone comes to me, even with a task as simple as changing the toner in the printer, if they say they don't know how to do it, my first reply is, I'm sorry. I haven't clearly not built a process for that. The last thing I do will show them how to do it. I'll say, can you give me a day? Let me systematize this. That's usually with a video. Here's my iPhone, here's me, here's how you unclip the toner, here's how you get it out, here's how you unpackage the new one, here's how you put it in. Process done, filed, go look at it. If you have any questions, get back to me. That has to be done with everything in your business, right down to how do you clean during COVID. And believe me, we have all that. So we systematize because leverage is about saving yourself time, energy, and money. Okay? But here's the thing, and here's the mistake most businesses make. This is a really important slide, and I want you all to think about it. When we systematize a business, most businesses start down at number 8. How-to manuals. Well, remember when I said vision and mystery and our destination mastery, vision and mission were going to come back to haunt us if we weren't having it done properly? Look at some of the top of our list here. Why is vision and mission at the top of our systemization list? You got any ideas? Because if we build systems that are not congruent with our vision and mission, we fall flat in our face. We get Rogers. If Rogers is on, anybody from Rogers, I'm sorry, I'll apologize right now. But let me tell you this. Remember I told you I used to fix CAT scan and MRI machines. Back when I was in my 20s, I was the first kid on the block that had a cell phone. Because you cannot have an ICU open without a CAT scan machine. So hospital goes down, the CAT scan machine goes down to Chicago General. I'm on an airplane to go fix it. They call me. So when I was in my 20s, my Rogers cell phone bill was more than my mortgage. Well, my company paid for it, but as a Rogers customer, I'm the top of their heap. I've been a Rogers customer for 32 years now. Every business I've ever had has been built on Rogers platforms. If I call Rogers up right now, guess how long I'm going to wait on hold for? Yeah. Even though they'll tell me I'm their most valuable customer, they're the best, that's systems not being connected to their vision. Completely disconnected. Every time I talk to them, I tell them this. You tell me I'm your best customer, 32 years, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on Rogers products, yet I get no level of customer support that matches who I am. So vision and mission and culture got to come first. We got to build our systems around that. Okay? Then we get SMART goals. That's where we're setting our targets for, just like the Olympic skier would be. OKRs are objectives and key results. We coach on that. Then we get into our organizational chart, which I said must be 5 years focused. Take your current organizational chart and map out where it needs to be in 5 years to match your growth. The Olympic skier will not be lifting the same weights in 5 years as they are today. They have a path for growth. We need to have that same path for growth. That means put all your expansion in dotted lines. That's how you're going to build your systems. Okay? Then we get into key performance indicators. After that, what are the key things we're going to measure? In my bike shop, I told you, average dollar sale, items per transaction, number of times they came back, average growth in the service department. Those are all things we had to figure out to learn how to grow. And by the way, we needed to have systems to measure a lot of that. As I told you, the most basic system I've learned about my average items per transaction was my vending machine. I had no idea I was going to be able to get that from that. But once I had it, it enabled me to drill down. A lot of the systems I purchased after that were all based around how can I better measure key performance indicators. Okay? Key performance indicator in me in this business is how many months my clients coach with us. Because we don't have year-long contracts here. So every month a client decides, am I going to re-up my coaching or not? Well, our key performance indicator is 63 months. That's our average. 63 months, clients coach with us. Generally, they stop because they're selling their business or they're moving on to something else. But that's a key performance indicator we have to measure, track, and go after. Okay? Then we get into how-to manuals, then we get into measurements and milestones. Very simple slide, but I'm going to tell you, this is something that you can really drill down on when you get back on. I've got a company I'm coaching right now. They're my favorite clients right now, a survey company in Calgary. Their first thing we jumped on was this, and they actually built 3 culture statements around this, and we're focusing on this right now. It doesn't take long to get done. You just got to focus on it, okay? Last thing is team. Team is the most probably profound area of this, although be it's the simplest. I'm a big supporter of team. I love having people with me. I love having an inclusive environment. But I'll tell you right now, when we see businesses that are not doing well, generally it's because as we build a team, the owner is responsible for a lot of different things. You can imagine if a business is struggling, what's the owner taking care of here? Everything. Yeah. If Timmy, my employee, isn't doing a good job and doesn't show up and doesn't care about me, then guess what? The owner has to become Timmy. Take his job that day. And if Timmy pissed off so many people, who do they call in looking to talk to? The owner. And if so many people stop coming to my business, guess who my suppliers are going to call looking for? The thing about this, everybody, is all we need to do as an owners is take care of our team. When we take care of our team, they take care of our customers, they take care of the business, and the business takes care of us. Now, I'm not being flippant in my approach here, trying to simplify this too much. Taking care of team is more complicated than it sounds. Taking care of team means we've got a USP that they can convert at a higher rate with. It means we've given them sales training. It means that we've got key performance indicators that they know how to grow. They know what their targets are. They've got performance-based contracts that they know when they're successful, how they're going to be rewarded. We've got a path to succession for them. The thing I'll show you, like this is a great example of where it doesn't happen. Nordstrom Rack in Portland, Oregon. Nordstrom known for its customer service, right? On the way to the staff break room when I was working there, no customer service officers. The management team couldn't even be bothered to put their pictures in there. That's not taking care of team. That's demotivating team. I got great service in that store, amazing service in that store. As a customer, they should have had something up there. Jim Collins said it better than I'll ever be able to say it. And believe me, I've had people leave this seminar and go back to their business and have to make some changes right away because of this one slide. We need to make sure we have the right people on our bus, and they have to be sitting in the right seat. They have to be the right people on our bus, and they have to be in the right seat. And that the courage to move them to the right seat is ours as owners. Often we'll find Timmys working in one area of our business where we know they're not well suited, would be better suited here, but we got to train them or develop them ourselves to get them there. But that's how we get client retention. Back in my bike shop, Ryan, my all-star general manager, salesperson who could sell ice to an Eskimo, he was supposed to be able to be my inventory manager, manage my $1.5 million of inventory. Couldn't do it. Couldn't handle spreadsheets. Hated them. I found the 15-year-old employee that I hired from Sobeys loved spreadsheets. Guess who in 1 year's time I made my inventory manager? Ruben. And his mom came in my store and said, "Are you crazy? He can't even clean his room up. And he's managing your inventory," he told me. She said, "Kevin, you got to check yourself in somewhere." I said, "No, it's his seat on the bus." Ruben stayed with me until he was 21 and he left. He's now one of the highest ranking people in the bike industry for Rocky Mountain and Shimano because of what we did for him when he was 15 and what he did for us. That takes guts, but we did it, okay? So ask yourself this. I'll tell you right now, this company right here, they put their money where their mouth is. Do you know who Zappos is? Online shoe store. If you ever go to Vegas again, if we're ever allowed to, go to Zappos. Call them up. They're in the old Las Vegas City Hall right down in Fremont. They will pick you up in a car for free. They will drive you to Zappos for free. They charge you $20 for the tour, but you get a hardcover book of their values and culture, which is probably with $40. And then they drive you back after they give you a complete tour. Here's the thing I learned at Zappos, though. This is taking care of team. If you work there and hate it there and don't want to be there, they will write you a check for $2,000 to quit. They will pay you $2,000 and they will walk you out the door because they don't want you there if you don't want to be there. That's taking care of team. So I asked the tour guide, I said, "Does that happen?" She goes, "Oh, it happens every now and then." I said, "What happens after that person's walked out the door?" You know what she told me? She said, "There's high fives everywhere." Not because that person got $2,000, because that person was a cancer and actually detracted from everybody else. And they were so happy to see that check written. That's taking care of team. That takes guts. The other thing I'll say is Quailsgate, our Kelowna office, I always look at them. They have got a really interesting, I don't call it promotion. It's when you work for them and they know good people attract good people. Good people's, their friends are generally good people as well. So they have a thing at Quailsgate where if you work there and you refer a friend and they stay for 6 months, you get $500 as an employee. So again, that's just adding great people to your team for the easiest way you can through the network you already have, okay? So that's team, that's the 4 levels that I'm gonna cover today. Synergy is very simple. Once we get you these areas, we keep working on stuff. That's an 8-cylinder engine, firing 8 cylinders. We keep going back and forth, right down to mastery and making sure we have cash flow, making sure we got niche, making sure we have results, maybe looking. You know what, the number thing I'll say about results is when the lady who owns the cupcake store asks us, should I be looking at buying the tire store down the street? That's results. Do you know why that is? Because running the tire store is exactly the same as running the cupcake store. They need leads, they got to convert them to get customers, they got to increase average dollar sale, get them to come back, and they got to get margin. It's exactly the same. It's the most privileged point we get to in coaching is when our clients say, what would it look like if we bought another business? That's what results are. Brad Sugar said this. I think it's one of the most profound things that I think about as I coach, but it's true. Every business is designed perfectly to get the results it's currently getting. So as I end this today, and remember, I'm going to challenge you all to write down a couple things. You can post it in the chat if you want to be congruent and stay with me as our coachees today. Write down the 2 things that you're going to do, because if we don't redesign our businesses, we're not going to have different results. So I'll give you my handouts here. Again, I'll thank you in advance for any, get my mask on here, for any review you give, but I'm more interested to know what your 2 things are. We've got a little bit of an offer. As I said, our 14th point of culture is abundance. We coach for free for 4 hours a week. We're going to offer this to even the people online. We'll post a link. If you want 30 minutes with one of my team to break down some of the areas that we've uncovered today, then let us know. Write it down on your papers. Write it down. We'll make sure you find a time to work with one of our coaches for free. That's us living our 14th point of culture. Anybody who does, we're going to give a free copy of the ebook, Buying Customers, which I think is one of the best Brad Sugars ever wrote. We actually have the updated covered version here. Buying Customers is all about getting leads. It's about figuring out how to work the equation of how much does it cost me to buy a customer, and we must. Write down your couple things you're going to commit to. I'm going to check you on that. The dangers of discounting, I'll quickly go over because you're going to take this back with you. There's increasing your prices. Dangers of discounting for those of you online. Take your current margin. In this case, I've highlighted 40%. And match it with the level of discount you think you're prepared to give your customer. In this case, I've done 10. Where the 2 boxes intersect is how much I must increase my sales to offset the 10% discount I just gave. In this case, it's 33%. I have to increase my sales 33% to give a 10% margin or a 10% discount on a 40% margin. A lot of you, if you're in the electronics business or a low margin, for instance, 20%, a 10% discount means we must increase our sales 100% to offset it. This is something we need to get clear on, and this is something sometimes if you don't know how to calculate your gross margin, we can do that during your 30-minute coaching session, and we'll do them on Zoom. Almost all of our coaching these days is done on Zoom. Any questions, we're here. But again, remember your business is designed perfectly, the results it's getting. Thank you for coming. I'm glad you're here.